So so I did that for about so 2000 whatever. Okay. So I did that where I worked a full-time job and did my practice on the side. So let's say I did that for about close to 10 years. Okay, but in that 10 years I had got married. I've been married for a few years, and then we had got to a place where we had starting a family. So I knew that the way that my days would go and the way that I felt, I did not want to, um, be raising kids and work at the type of job that I was working at. It didn't have anything to do with money. You know what I'm saying? It didn't have nothing to do with, the job sucking or anything like that. It just had everything to do with, like just I just wanted to be able to be a little bit more available. I wanted to have a better mindset when I left work and would get, to my family. So it was at that point where I decided to, leave, my full-time job with with the benefits, you know what I'm saying, with the PTO, with all of that stuff that we grow accustomed to. It was at that point where I decided, when I go out to have my daughter, like I'm not going to return. Okay. And so let me tell you that even though it was a scary decision, um, it wasn't as scary as it could have been because I knew everything about private practice at that point because I had been doing it on, you know what I'm saying, even though it was on a smaller scale, but I had been doing it. I was already established, with insurance companies, with EAP companies. I was even established with the like the state insurance health plans, all of those things. So I had several, referral streams to pull from. So when I wanted to amp it up some, I could. When I wanted to slow it down some, I could. So these were all stuff I was doing while I was still like working a full-time job, right? And it was I had autonomy. You know what I'm saying? When I wanted to do a lot with it, I did. When I didn't want to do a lot with it, I didn't. Okay. So I was able to step out. Starting going into private practice is not very costly, depending on where you're at and what type of office you're trying to get. You get what I'm saying? I'd already had a relationship established. So, you know what I'm saying? I was already used to paying something for office rent. Switches to full time, I did have to pay a little bit more, but I already had the groundwork already in doing that. Okay. So that was at that point. So every month I would start from zero. And by the end of the month, I was making more than what I was making when I was working, you know what I'm saying, for, a full-time job. Okay. Now, some people say, well, it's not guaranteed. It's not. You get what I mean? Um, it's about building relationships. It's about not necessarily getting married to one referral source when you're starting out. Um, and it's about you working it, meaning, like, okay, like these are days I'm going to work and I'm going to maximize, on these days where I'm working. So, you know what I'm saying? So let's say you're starting out with private practice. And let's say on average, you're doing 10 clients a week. Okay. So you don't want to just kind of just schedule them everywhere. You're gonna say, okay, I'm gonna pick 2 days out the week where I'm working, and then the other 3 days I'm gonna be doing things like networking, building relationships. You know what I'm saying, to get my practice up and moving and going. So it's something that you work at, and even when you're at that level, you just still work to maintain, you know what I'm saying, what it is that you have. Now, is there anyone that have any questions before? Because I don't want to just keep rambling because I thought it was going to be more interactive. So I'm just kind of talking. But does anyone have any questions specifically? I think Jamie.
Yes, hi. Thank you for being here. We appreciate
Hmm.
you. I am an intern, and unfortunately, where I'm at, we actually have to quote, sell ourselves, market ourselves. So this is kind of an important supervision for me to listen to. I'm curious, can you share with us what kind of marketing tools that you used to help you? Because I am getting clients, but it's just such a slow start. And especially with my being an intern and don't have my license, that's kind of a bummer drag too. But can you just share with us some of the stuff that you've done to help you boost? And then how long did it take you to start getting consistency?
Okay. When I first started out, it was before there was like a lot of social media and and things like that. So I started mainly by going to um different like family services offices, different doctors offices, different psychiatrist offices, and just kind of letting them know what I was doing. You know what I'm saying? Hey, I'm a new therapist, I'm over at this office, I'm accepting referrals. Of course, I would use my business cards or brochures or whatever it was we were using, like at that time. But it was pretty much, like walking in, like, cold calls and like, hey, how are you guys doing? And letting them know in that way. Now, you do have I don't know if they let you all set up profiles like on Psychology Today. I'm not really sure, but you can do that. If there are schools in the community that utilize the office that you work out of, you can reach out, you can let them know, hey, I'm an intern, and I'm accepting referrals um from this time to this time. So, you got to look at the community that you're in and all the possible places referrals could come from. So I'm not really sure what the setup is, where you're doing your intern, you know, uh, ship at. Uh, I mean, I don't know, back in the day, in my experience, if you was an intern, they would also help you, with getting some clients. But since you have to kind of do it all on your own, I would recommend that you look at what's around you, and then you go and you let people know what you're doing. You send emails, you know what I'm saying? You can do phone calls. Um, if they have a Facebook group, they can post you, like on Facebook. And if they have like a social media platform, they can post your picture and they can say, hey, this is an intern we have here. She has openings. Does that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Hmm. Okay, so Elizabeth.
When you first started your private practice, did you already have like the a set, I guess, type of clientele that you knew that you wanted to see, or were you open to just seeing anybody with any type of issue?
Oh yeah, no, I did not have a set I did not have a set client. I did not have like a niche, if that what you say, or expertise at that time. I was kind of young at the time, and kind of just trying to kind of feel my way in regards to that. Because at that time, because I was younger, I did have a tendency to get a lot of referrals for kids. For some reason, I was very good with working with kids, and I ended up getting certifications in play therapy and trauma focused CBT, for children or whatever. So that did, early on, kind of become what I was known for, like during that period of time. But as I grew, as a therapist, I became interested in working more so with adults and dealing with depression and grief, and then also the couples therapy. So, just with life and just with me building and doing trainings, I kind of shifted more in that direction. And so that's primarily, like what I do and what I'm known for now. So I think it's a matter of if Some people are different. Like I, went straight from undergrad to grad school, like so work. So I didn't have very much work experience. So I didn't really know, you know what I'm saying? Like what I was really good at or what really came natural to me. I knew me helping people was a natural thing, but as far as any, specialties or anything, it took time for that to develop. But then you have other people who have been working for a while, they've done what they need to do. They know, you know what I'm saying, what it is they want their niche to be. And so they got to get their degree and their license and whatever. So if you already know it, that's great. Like I said, that's fine. But if you don't, that's fine too. You get what I mean? You just, see who comes. If it feel right, it's good. If it's like, I don't know about, like this population, you know what I'm saying? Do I want to put the training and education in of what's needed to be able to, be ethically qualified to, help this client? So that's kind of what you do. It's a growth thing. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, yes, okay. So I think it was Megan next. I'm not sure. I can't know who. I don't know who's next. If somebody can kind of say, but I did see Megan first.
Hi, thank you.
Mhm.
So I guess my question, all of the personal therapists that I know, they do not work with insurance. They're strictly self-pay. But of course, being able to work with insurance will open up more options and give you more of a referral source. So I'm kind of wondering, what was that process like trying to get established with insurance companies, and is it a big headache, or is it something that's fairly, straight to the point kind of thing?
Well, years ago, it used to be, well, I'm not gonna say that it's not a headache, still, but I think back in the day, it used to be more of a headache, because you had to apply with, each individual insurance company, and that process could take anywhere from 3 to 6 months. Now they have a CAQH, which is kind of like a mainstreamed, uh, portal where you put all your information in there. And then if you to get credentialed with insurance companies, when you apply with the insurance company, you just let them know your CAQH number, and then they're able to see it and they're able to kind of look at it and get you credentialed that way. So kind of once you do the CAQH, you know what I'm saying? If you're going to do insurances, that's the information that gets used to get you credentialed, with the different insurance programs. Now, in regards to billing insurance, you do have to be educated on, what on CPT codes, on what diagnoses are accepted and what what's not. You have to be definitely careful, because when you're using insurance, the service should be medically necessary. You get what I'm saying? Meaning that the person is experiencing some form of, mental, like distress, whether it's like anxiety, depression, something like that. So, because basically you are saying, hey, I'm delivering this service, it's medically necessary. So so you gonna need to pay me. You get what I'm saying? So you got to make sure that you're using your clinical judgment in regards to that. So as far as the billing part, I've been doing this so long, it's not a problem for me. The way things are set up now, the way billing is done so easily, everything is done electronic, is not a problem, but you got to have the knowledge. So I know one thing that helped me with learning billing is, having a good mentor that was in private practice that basically kind of taught me everything, in regards to, um, how to bill, for services and what worked and what didn't work. Whenever insurance programs do trainings or there's changes, I would sign up for them so I could be aware. But for some therapists, they say, I don't want to deal with insurance because there is a cap. You're not going to, make whatever you want to make. You get what I'm saying? So some people say, I don't even deal with it. I would just rather get my cash, like right off the top, so to speak. But some of the benefits that come along with being on insurance panels and EAP panels is that is a referral. That's a stream of referrals. So people will call you. It's almost like free advertisement in a way because you're on the panel. So if someone is looking, and if you live in Timbuktu, USA, and they're like, oh gosh, I need a therapist, they're gonna look, and then you pop up, they're like, oh, I'm gonna call and see if they have openings, you know what I'm saying, or whatever. So people will always kind of be looking for you, checking for you. But if for people that do all cash practice, it does, take a little bit more marketing. It does take a little bit more strategy in, the population that you're trying to market from. Because if you're in a more of a working class, lower socioeconomic area, you may not have a lot of people that have the means to pay $125 an hour, for therapy. You get what I'm saying? So then you would have to think about, okay, where do I want my office, to be? Do I need to be in a different area? Do I need to target, you know what I'm saying, a more affluent community? You know what I'm saying? So I can, get these clients who are, willing to be cash pay. Okay. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, all right. So I think I saw Jacqueline, and then I think it'll be Stephanie.
Hi, good evening.
Good
My
evening.
question is about telehealth. I'm wondering how the rise in popularity of telehealth has impacted the amount of clients you see virtually versus in person.
Oh, wow. It has impacted it tremendously. Now, I will let you all know, I want to say it might have been in 2016 is when I went to my first training for telehealth. So that is when it first, like when you because when you're a therapist, when you're licensed, you'll get little things in the mail about different trends and things coming up. So they were talking about virtual therapy, teletherapy, and they were offering this training and everything. And so I was talking to some of my colleagues, and they were like, well, that's not real therapy. We're not going to really get off into that. But, I like kind of keeping up with the trends. So I said, well, I'm going to go ahead and, do the training and get the certificate. And as a part of the training, they actually guided us into like identifying like a platform that we could use and creating consents, in doing telehealth. We learned like the rules, of telehealth and everything. So I was already set up, and my goal of offering telehealth was more so for client retention, but basically for like late cancellations or like, or like no shows, because you'll have clients that something will just kind of come up and be like, oh my God, I'm not going to make it in time. You get what I'm saying? So then it's like, I'm not going to be able to come for my whole appointment. And so then most, you end up like charging them, like a late fee or late cancellation fee and things like that. But what I would use it for was to say, hey, well, if if you don't have enough travel time, we can do a virtual session, which worked. But what even worked better is when COVID happened and I was already set up. But then you had like my colleagues who weren't, and they were like, oh my God, like, how did you do? Like, what did you do? And so when I tell you that my practice now I do make an intentional effort to still see people in person on some level, but my practice is like 50% virtual and the other half. And it could be more virtual, but I just still make an effort to still see some people, like in the office, what I'm saying, in person. But there are therapists out here that have 100% virtual practices now because of COVID, because there's a push in regards to trying to get people to understand, especially employers, that mental health is so important. Um, like the benefits for mental health are better with insurances. More jobs are paying for more like EAP benefits for their um, therapists, with not for their employees, which includes therapy. You get what I'm saying? Like going to see a therapist for free and things like that. So, and most of that stuff is like virtual. A lot of the EAP stuff it's like only virtual. You get what I'm saying? So it definitely has. So it makes it more accessible. People are more willing to do it, and it's more convenient. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. But I actually had a follow-up just to wondering, do you feel like you lost anything in the service you provide going from in-person to virtual?
No, now at first I kind of felt like you could, but I don't feel like I did. But in going into providing virtual therapy, um, of course, ethically, you want to assess the person to make sure that they are appropriate, for virtual therapy. So of course, if there is a person, that is like, of course, like actively suicidal, or, they just have a mental health issue that is very intense, if it affects their behavior, them being able to like sit still and things like that, then that would be somebody that, okay, maybe, virtual therapy is not appropriate for them. Also, people with chaotic households or homes, they may not be appropriate, you know what I'm saying, for virtual. You do have to assess to determine, like, okay, this is a good person, this is a good fit, or, like, no, this is not going to work. Are you open to scheduling, like something at the office? So ethically, we do have a responsibility, you know what I'm saying, to be able, to, make that call if the person is not appropriate for it.
Thank you.
Mhm. Okay, I think I said Stephanie was next, and then it is going to be, I believe, Courtney, and then Michelle.
So thanks, Dr. LaJuana, for taking the time to talk to us. I definitely have the desire for independence that you spoke about in the beginning, not wanting to have to ask permission for things like doctor's appointments, etc. And I have a friend who is an LCPC. She has an LLC, and there are some dicey cases and ethical situations that she comes across. And it can really be isolating, having your own practice. So I'm wondering, you spoke about the mentorship and the learning that you had early on, but now in this stage where you're at, where do you go for like case consultation or ethical counsel and accounting? Like, who do you have on your team, and how did you choose which roles, if any, to outsource to other people?
Okay. Well, I still have a mentor that I use, that I meet with monthly, to, talk about just kind of myself as a therapist and how I feel I'm doing, you know what I'm saying? Just as a therapist in regards to working my cases, maintaining my schedule, my self-care, feelings that come up when I'm dealing with clients, and things like that. I'm also a part of a peer consultation group. It consists of other therapists in my area. And we used to meet in person, but of course, with everything kind of with COVID and everything, we ended up switching over to doing virtually. And so we do that once a month. And people, and in those instances, you're able to, bring, like you have clinical issues, you want to get some insight, on things. We do that at the peer consultation as well. I want to point out that in instances, where you're in private practice and something comes up, with a client, of course, mental health emergencies and things like that. I mean, we're all equipped, to assess and identify, like, okay, there could be a risk of, harm or whatever. So I think it's about you trusting yourself and knowing, because you know what to do in regards to, who to call, how to direct, in those instances. If it's a situation where a client comes across and you're like, okay, I don't think I can help this client. I don't think I have the expertise in this area to help the client. The best thing to do is to be transparent, but let them know that, hey, I'm going to try to assist you in finding, you know what I'm saying, the appropriate resource to help you, with the situation. A lot of times people will say being in private practice can be isolating. I've never felt isolated because I've always had a mentor, and I always have been a part of the peer consultation groups. As far as when you ask, do I look for anything specific? Like, how do I pick them? These are all relationships that develop naturally. So I don't think I went into it like I'm going to pick, you have to be this and that. It just kind of happened organically. So I can't necessarily say, but of course, it's easier. Of course, the consultation group consists of other therapists that are also in private practice. So the relatability, definitely helps. Getting consultation from someone who's, not in private practice, not to say that it wouldn't be a good thing, but it does help, knowing that you have people that, are kind of doing the same thing that you're doing. I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think Courtney was next.
Hi. So my question is, I work at a private practice right now, and they use a Theranos platform to run the whole practice. Have you found a preferred platform to run your private practice, or like?
Yes, I run my private practice on Simple Practice. I've been doing that. I've been using that for like the last almost 15 years.
Oh,
I love it. I don't have no problem with it. You can basically do everything on it, from, your intakes, doing your treatment notes, your treatment plans. You can do your billing, you can collect payments. You can even do your virtual sessions. It's HIPAA compliant, like with everything. I mean, I'm not, no shade to any other platform or anything like that. That's just what, I, just use and prefer, and wouldn't go with anything else because it just seems simpler than some of the other ones that I've kind of played around with and been exposed to.
okay. Yeah.
Could you say
Yeah.
the
I
name
was
of
always
that
curious.
platform again?
Who was that?
Oh, this was Michelle. Sorry, I was saying, could you repeat the name of that platform that you use again?
Oh, it's called Simple Practice.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Okay. So I think, Michelle, I think that you were next as far as
Oh,
question goes. Mm-hmm.
great. Okay. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this with us this afternoon. I know you've already kind of gone over how you started off with the part-time and then ventured into full-time, and then you were kind of talking with other people and you built the network. So what other factors do you think we should be thinking about in this stage in terms of what our private practice will look like? Like, I guess I want to know more about like the soul searching you did to
Mm-hmm.
determine
Mm-hmm.
that, yeah, to determine that that the private practice that you now operate was for you.
Okay. Okay. So I would recommend first you know what your why is. And then I want you all to know I did write a book that kind of talks about my process and all the steps for you to take. And I will try to put the link in the chat before I leave. But it's called Private Practice Peace. And for people who are looking to, run or build or run a solo practice. But in regards to like the soul searching part of it, you want to know what your why is. Like, why am I doing this? Like, why, your why. for being a therapist in the first place, and the vision that you have. My vision was always that I would have this office and that people would come and that they would talk to me, and then I would open my door and say, I'll see you next week. I mean, that was my vision that I had. And so I wanted to,
Right.
like, okay, yes, that's what that's what I want to do. So being clear on what your vision is. So when you set out to be like, okay, I want to have my own practice. So then you got to ask yourself, like, okay, do I have the resources that it takes to have my own practice? Because if you, have your own practice, if you want to do an in-person, then you got to have a space to do it. You get what I'm saying? So,
Right. And that was going to be
so
my next question. So I'm
yeah,
going to just go ahead and ask that because that was a perfect segue. But
yeah.
what
Mhm.
resources or trainings do you feel prepared you for the private practice? I know you kind of spoke to some of them before earlier with the medical billing and coding and the thinking about the renting space. But were there other things that kind of came up for you as you were building your practice, so to speak?
Hmm. Back then, I don't really nothing not nothing extra that I could recall. I was really
Okay.
blessed in that I knew the right people, you know what I'm saying? And I was able to be connected a little bit easier maybe than other people at the time. Okay? But watching another one of my colleagues, go through to go through the situation where she maybe didn't have the connections that I had,
Right.
she pretty much just kind of used, like reading books. She looked around, she identified, where therapists most often rented, like, oh, this building has a lot of therapists in it, or here's another, office building, you know what I'm saying? Their rent is, pretty reasonable. Let me check that out. So talking to other therapists, asking how much do you pay in rent, looking for other therapist offices, someone that might be willing to sublet or have you rent like space by the hour. You get what I'm saying? Or per session, so to speak. So you have to be able to
Right.
identify like, do I want to start out part-time? Do I want to kind of start out where I have a few clients and I only pay for space as I have clients? Or do I want to pay for a space, get it all set up and then work on, building, getting people, through the door, like to see me for therapy. Okay. So you can hire a consultant. Consultants do a good job with walking you through, once you identify what your why and your vision is. And so, kind of help you walk through, do the research, area that you want to be in. Or for people that want to just do a virtual practice, because that doesn't cost a whole lot of money. If you already got a laptop, you already got internet, at home, you got a home office, you can do that. But still, with a virtual practice, it does still, if you're going to use insurance companies, they do require that you have an address that is not your home address. But there are places that will let you pay, for a virtual address that you can use, instead of actually, going and getting a brick and mortar, office space. You know what I mean? So there
Yeah.
are things you can do, you know, to have whatever type of practice it is that you want, according to your life, according to your budget, according, to whatever. And having, a practice building consultant or another therapist that's been in practice for a while is a great resource, to kind of be like, okay, like well, they did this, well, maybe I could try that, or I'm gonna look over here and see, you know what I'm saying, if they will be able to sublet me an office for 2 days a week.
Makes sense. Thank you so much for all of that.
No problem. Okay, so I think Janelle was next.
I couldn't find how to turn the camera back on. My question would be, with you being just like virtual, do you feel like it's harder for you to connect and network with individuals versus like being in office?
Okay. Well, I'm not just virtual. I do still
Okay.
see people in office as well. But I don't when you say connect with people, what do you mean?
Like how you said you had a mentor and you you have people that will give you or resources and stuff like that. Were those people that you connect with in public or did you find them virtually? Like I know it's forums and stuff that you can go on, but like I just want to be solely virtual. So that is my worry where if I'm not out and about, I won't connect with individuals to help me, learn and grow.
Now, there are so many like online coaching groups. There are so many online consultation groups. I mean, I have colleagues that I have met like just online
Okay.
that they live in Florida, you know what I'm saying? Connecticut, man. So even if you are just doing virtual therapy, I mean, the World Wide Web and all of these social media connect. I mean, I think that if you wanted to, like, okay, yes, I want to be connected. I want to act. If you engage, you're gonna meet other people. Like if you at your laptop at your desk working on some stuff, and then you say, "Hey, I got a question about such and such." You know, you go into a social media group and you post that question. I guarantee you gonna get about 15, 20 answers, maybe even more, because we all everywhere. You get what I'm saying?
Okay. Yeah.
And then, yeah, and just like with in-person relationships, with the online and professional, situations, those relationships build too. You get what I'm saying? So
Okay.
you gonna
Yeah.
find people who kind of maybe got some of the same challenges that you got that's going through say, and then you're gonna kind of migrate, online to some of those people. There's some great social media groups of therapists that all do virtual. You got clinicians of color. That is a massive Facebook group. You know what I'm saying? They are awesome. They have great resources, great therapists on there. Whatever city, state you're in, they got, people there, I'm sure, that's online. You just got to be willing to reach out and network and be open. And confidence has a lot to do with that. Being confident and like, hey, I'm here. This is what I'm doing. And you gonna find your people.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
hmm so I think we had Arlick and then Taylor.
Thank you so much for being here with us today. Um,
hmm
one of the questions that I have is how do you manage your social media presence for your business?
Now I do have a Facebook page for my business, positive outcomes counseling service, and I also have a Facebook page on what's it? It's my first name, LaJuana Walker-McGill, PhD. Um, I'm not a big social media person as far as like branding and promoting. I probably do need to do better, with it. But I do just enough to where somebody need to find me on social media, they can. I also have Instagram as well. Um, but that is a way, they do. Doing your branding, letting people know. One thing that I will do, a lot of therapists will do, they will put positive quotes. They will put things related to mental health. They will do things like that to kind of draw people in. And so if a person is having a bad day or they're, kind of going through something, wow, I saw a really great, quote or message, from this therapist, this therapist Facebook page. You know what, I'm going to click the button and reach out and see if I can get a session. Or also promoting your workshops is great to do on a social media like on Facebook, Instagram, as far as the promotion of it. That's a great way to get people, especially if you're doing virtual. It can work well with in person too, but with virtual. With me, I don't necessarily do it as much as I should. But when I do need to do it, I do. So if I'm having like an online training or something like that, I'll get on, I'll put it on, I'll promote it, and then, you know, I'll get interest and people will sign up, you know, and things like that. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think that was Taylor was next.
Hello. I was just curious. Um, what would you say would be probably one of the biggest challenges that you've had since starting your private practice?
So one of the biggest challenges that I had in regards to starting my private practice, the biggest challenge was the absolute biggest challenge that I ever had was COVID. That was the biggest challenge because everybody was, you know, everybody was, you know, kind of freaked out. You know, we had to like drastically, completely switch to virtual therapy. Even though I already had access to it, it still was like, wow, you know, I got to switch like completely to this, and you know, getting people comfortable with um getting people comfortable with, you know, going virtual. So that was a challenge. But you know what? It just dawned on me that was not my biggest challenge. My biggest challenge was, for those of you all that do not know, I want to, y'all, none of y'all know, I am located in St. Louis, Missouri. And my office, the first office space that I had where I worked as an independent therapist. So I opened that office in '09 with a group of other therapists. So we all worked independently, but it was like kind of like a big building, and it was like different suites or whatever. It was a fabulous setup. Okay. In urban Ferguson. So the thing about it was, in the Mike Brown shooting happened um in 14, and we were right in that area, not far from where it happened. So then you had, you know, the protests, you had all of this stuff, and so people were. And this was before like the, you know, the virtual, you know, telehealth therapy. So people were afraid to come for therapy because of where we were located. So therefore, the numbers just like dropped like tremendously because it was a community crisis and people were afraid. Okay. So you know, we did the best we could. I did the best I could with the people who did feel comfortable enough to come in. So if the shooting happened in August of 14, so then I want to say August, September, then October, you know, things died down and people, you know, started feeling a little bit more comfortable. The numbers started going back up. And then in November, the grand jury verdict came, and that whole strip of where our office was, or what everything in the overnight aftermath, it got burned like down along with other buildings. So at that point I had lost like everything. You get what I'm saying? Like all my office furniture, everything. Luckily we all had insurance, so we were able to get everything that we had replaced. But you know, we had to relocate, you know, to like another office building, and that took a few months. So but I had a great connection of people. I had a friend who had an office in another area, and he would let me, you know, come there on days where he was not there, you know what I'm saying, and see clients. I had started doing some satellite work at another, you know, like office, where they let me see clients there. So it was an adjustment, and that was a period where I could have been like, you know what, I'm just gonna go get me a job, you know. But I stood true, you know, to what, you know, I wanted to do. I hung in there. I have a great husband. I have a great support system. And then eventually it just all worked out. And in the end, it all worked out better. You get what I'm saying? Because it's just like, you know, the referrals just grew. And once I got resettled and everything it just went up again from there. So that is the thing about working for yourself in a situation of a crisis. If something happens, you know what I'm saying? You got to roll with it. There is no, I mean, you can have a cushion like money saved, or you can have a plan B, but you got to figure it out. And the thing, with working for someone, people say, oh, when you work for somebody, it's better, you know what I'm saying? But, people lose their jobs all the time, where people say, hey, we don't need you no more. You know what I'm saying? Your insurance is it's going to end at, at the end of this month or whatever. So I try to look at it in the same way. Anything can happen at any given time. You can have something one moment and then the next moment you don't. But then what you gonna do? You can have a client one moment and then the next one that client can say, you know what, I don't think I need therapy anymore, or I think I want to try something else, or I'm gonna move away. Well, then okay, what do? You okay? I'm viable. I'm a good therapist. I'm gonna market. I'm gonna do what I need to do. I'm gonna adjust so that I can still be successful and help people that I need to help. So that was the most challenging thing that I went through in regards to private practice. But in understanding the ups and the downs of private practice, one thing is for certain, like the week of Christmas, and the week after, like I don't really even schedule or work, because people have the best intentions on coming to therapy, but it's so busy around that time. People, they call like, oh, you know what, I'm not gonna be able to make it. I'm not gonna do that. So you learn the ups and the downs, the trends. You're gonna say, oh, it's the holidays right now, so I'm not gonna, schedule a whole bunch of people because people are busy. They're not gonna really come. The January is always a slow month. You know what I'm saying? Like the first few, because people, if you seeing insurance clients, they deductibles have started over. Those that have deductibles, so they're not as they're trying to get their finances together to get back in or get their deductible met. People that pay cash money, some of them done spend a lot of money for Christmas or done took big trips. So they may not be itching to run back in. So you plan, you make enough money. And if you get my book, there's a formula of how you set your fee, how you include everything that you would get on a full-time job. There's a formula that you do to where you determine based on, how much you want to work, how many clients you want to see a week, how much it's going to cost to keep your office. If you was working for somebody else, how much vacation time you would have. All that stuff is worked in there, and it comes down to this is what I need to charge, or what I need to make per session to be able to cover, you know what I'm saying, all of that. So there's a formula to it all. Okay. It's just knowing it, and it's just, sticking with that. And so if you're saying like, okay, in a year, I want to work, uh 40, I'm gonna work 45 weeks in a year. So I'm gonna work. That's what I'm gonna do. And whatever I work, I got the formula. So it's gonna cover, as if I done worked, 45 weeks plus, the other 6 weeks of vacation. And so that's where you get like, um, like an accountant, a business consultant, someone that helps you to be able to, save money. You know what I'm saying? Because you still got to pay taxes. So, saving your money for your taxes, or paying your quarterly taxes, all of that stuff that's not fun. But once you get the formula to do it, it's easy. I'm telling you, like I went into private practice over 15 years ago, and I have not like turn my back like at all. It is worth it if you know how to do your money. If you balance, it's worth it. But if you don't, then maybe you do need to keep a W-2 job. And the book that I have is called, and you can't see it, Private Practice Peace. You can find it on Amazon, and my name is LaJuana Walker-McGill. So you can find it on Amazon. And there is a way to contact me in the book. I think my email, something is in there. So if you have any further questions, you know, you please feel free to reach out.